Hey everybody, I just want to go over the type of sentences, basically simple sentences and compound sentences. For those of you who are having trouble, you can always go back to this video. I will also save this as a PDF file so you can look at it. So again, let's review. Guys, remember that a subject is what the sentence is all about. It's the main point of the sentence. It's who's performing the action or the verb. It's really who or what it's always about. Okay. And the main verb, which is really called a predicate, is what the subject is actually doing. You have to ask yourself those questions when you're trying to identify a subject or a verb. Don't just look for any noun and say it's a subject, or any verb and say it's the main verb. It has to be what the subject's doing. So let's look at that. And remember that when we talk about simple sentences, we're really talking about independent clauses. And if you have a sentence that's just made up of one independent clause, that's a simple sentence. Okay, just remember that, especially when we get to compound sentences. So let's look. In this sentence, Becky needs to stop worrying about Barry's feelings. We want to find a main verb. Now, people might look at Barry and say that's a noun, but we have to ask ourselves too, who are we talking about? And it's clear here that we're actually talking about Becky. Okay, just remember that, and we're going to highlight that yellow just like you used to. So Becky is the subject here, right? Now we have to figure out what Becky is doing here. So if we look here, we see all these verbs. We see needs, stop, worrying, right? And the first thing many of you will probably go to is Becky needs to stop, and you'll see it to stop. You'll see that and you'll think that's a verb. But remember what we talked about, if you could read down here, that whenever you see a verb with to in front of it, like here, these are actually not verbs anymore. They're called infinitives. They act like objects and they act like nouns. So you will never, ever highlight a word with to in front of it like this, because that's not the verb. So what you need to look at is what Becky's actually doing. She's not stopping worrying right now. She needs. So the answer for this one is needs. Needs is the verb. Remember that. I still see a lot of you people, you guys, saying to and a word in front of it. Like if I say I want to play golf or something, you guys will highlight to play, and that's not the verb here. The verb in I want to play golf would be want. So remember that. Whenever you see this, you know it will never, ever be the main verb. So remember that. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Look for what is being described to find a subject. So if you have Jeffrey's Pokemon card collection is so much better than yours. A lot of you I've seen automatically go to Jeffrey. We're not describing Jeffrey here. We're describing his card collection. So if you would say, okay, collection, I guess that's what's being described. Yeah, that's fine. That's what it really is. If you put card collection, I'd be okay with that too. We're not saying Jeffrey is so much better than yours. We're saying his card collection is so much better. So look out for that. Don't just highlight anybody's name just because you see it and say it's the subject. Again, we're not talking about Jeffrey here. We're talking about his card collection. That's really important. Please remember that. Think before you start highlighting everything. Another one here is just because you see someone's name doesn't mean that they are the subject. It's almost like the one before. The students in Mr. Calamito's class ran and screamed in terror down the hallways. This, because I gave too much homework, I guess. Um, this, you have to first think that it's not, again, it's not Mr. Calamito. It's his students running. So you would highlight students in yellow. And of course, the verbs would be ran and screamed. Okay? Just remember, the students are performing the action. Mr. Calamito is not running in terror down the hallways because he finally has to teach you guys. No, it's the students running in terror because I guess I gave too much homework. Next. Mary screamed and threw cupcakes at the innocent-looking llama. Poor llama. We got to realize who is screaming. I think this one is easy. Sorry, wrong color. This should be yellow. Mary screamed. And she didn't only scream. Remember, she threw. So we have to look at screamed as a verb and then threw as a verb. What did Mary do? She screamed and threw cupcakes at the innocent looking llama. Another thing that's catching you guys, whenever you see ing verbs, you automatically think that they're main verbs. But you got to read this carefully. Crushing dreams and dashing hopes are two of Mr. Calamito's favorite pastimes. We have to look at, let's try to find a verb first. A lot of you forget that the most common verbs are actually am, is, are, was, were, and things like that. So we found the verb here. So then we got to figure out, well, what are two of Mr. Calamito's favorite pastimes? What? That's looking for a thing, right? When you say what. So we would say crushing and dashing. Again, focus on who's performing the verb. Simone took John to meet her parents. John is not performing the action here. Simone is. And what does she do? She took. All right. Yes, you could say, yeah, well, John's going to meet the parents too, but this sentence is about Simone. It's not about John. Remember, who is it about? Helping verbs. You guys always forget them. Always be aware of helping verbs because they're the complete verb. And what you have to do is find all the verbs that are being linked together. Find the main one. Now, watching is a main verb. You can see it. It's like an action. The other ones are part of that list. This one. So if you're aware of that list and if you remember the words, you should catch it pretty quickly. If you look at this word right here, watching, you have a verb. And now you have these other two verbs here. They are helping watching. So don't forget about them. So the complete verb here, once you realize that, it's kind of easy, is have been watching. And then, of course, the subject would be we. A lot of you are just highlighting watching or just highlighting have. You must highlight the whole verb. And there's your verbs. Know them, understand them. They're not that hard to remember because a lot of them are one and the same, like can and could, do, does and did, has and have. They're just different versions of each other. And then compound sentences. This, if you understand simple sentences, compound sentences are a breeze. All they are two simple sentences together. Look at that. So if I say I teach at Robinson, I teach a Robinson, great grammar, Calamito. If I say I teach at Robinson and my wife teaches at Lake Braddock, I teach at Robinson is one simple sentence. My wife teaches at Lake Braddock is another simple sentence, which are called independent clauses, right? So I have one independent clause. If you look at this I, that's what the I symbolizes. I have another independent clause. That's what this I symbolizes. And then I have a comma and a conjunction. We'll talk about that in a second. So we have I, comma, CI. That's the formula for a compound sentence. Again, guys, just two sentences put together with either a comma coordinated conjunction or just a semicolon. Okay, so again, I, comma, CI, or I teach at Robinson, another A Robinson. My wife teaches at Lake Braddock, just a semicolon. That's how you do it. It's that simple. One last thing, let's just go over fanboys, which is easy. It's the way to remember it is for and nor, but, or, yet, so. And that's it. Hope that helped.